Hello folks, welcome back to the Drunken Upholsterer. Today we're going to upholster the stool and finish it up. Show you a few of the things we're going to be using. I use a rotary cutter, cutting on this mat. This is a nice rhino mat. Works really good. It has a grid for measuring and squaring off fabric. Very helpful. Then you need something to measure with. You can use a regular tape measure or loose tape. Both come in handy. Of course, the rotary cutter, very sharp. Be careful. Pen to mark the fabric, pencil, even a marker, and most of the time I use chalk. But they have tailor's chalk and other kinds of ways to mark fabric. But anyway, that suits you is good. Piece of paper, of course, to write your figures down. And then you got your straight edges for measuring and cutting. They all are needed at one time or another. I happen to bring my mother with me today. She's going to help us with her own stool. And what we'll do is we're going to measure the size of the top, the size of the box here. And we're going to cut some cording to go here and go down there. So first we'll go across the top, and you want to leave extra so you can pull it, and you want to make sure you're far enough down so that when you put the cording on, it covers it. Looks like we're going to be 27 that way. So that's 27 in the width. I write down the 27, and I actually make a little mark over the top. And it's going to be by, looks like about 21. And when you lay your fabric out on the table, if there's a pattern like this, you want the top of the fabric that way. And you always keep that in mind when you're measuring and cutting. Like the box, even though you could use a longer piece this way, the fabric would be sideways, and you don't want that. So you have to take all that into consideration, especially when you're working with a limited amount of fabric. All right, so we need to get a box here, and we need to make sure there's plenty of that as well. So we're looking at probably 10 inches ought to do it. So that's 10 inches top to bottom. And since we are working with a limited amount of fabric, we're going to measure from that corner around to this corner, and we'll get half the stool at a time. You want to add more because you're going to staple it beyond each corner and then cover it up. So you're going to need at least 36. So I'm going to put down, say, 37. And then we're going to need 2 pieces of cording to go around there. Let's see how wide we are. Yeah, we're at 46, which is plenty. So we'll need 2 cuts, one to go that far and one to continue around for each piece of cording. And so we'll need 4 of those. So I write down 4 welt. I call it a cording welt cord, and we'll need 4 of them, 2 for here and 2 for down here. That gets us to the point of cutting the fabric. What I like to do is cut the biggest piece first and then work your way down. If you're running short on fabric, you can make your cording out of just about anything that's left. So it's always best to go big first. This is the selvage, this fuzzy part of it. And you can see on the back that there's no backing for about 3/4 of an inch up. So you really don't want that. So put your straight edge. I'm just estimating it and just cutting it off and getting a straight edge to measure from. All right. So we need 21 inches. This pattern's small, so we don't really have to center it or worry too much about it. If it was a big flower or something, you'd have to measure to the middle of it and take all your calculations from there, but this is just fairly easy stuff. So we mark our 21 and a 21, and we want to be 27, so we mark our 27 and our 27. And on this fabric you can almost use the fabric itself as a marker. And I think I'll do that because it helps you to put it on square when you have a good cut and it's all the same. You can see this mark is higher than that mark. It's been stretched and pulled so it's not straight. So if you cut to the fabric, it'll actually help you in the long run when you put it on to have it look nice and even and square. Rotary cutter, cuts no time. Look at that. If I had my scissors, I would have to strike the line like that. Takes more time. Then you got to cut it. Which isn't so bad, but it's time. And when you're making the cording, it's real fast with the rotary cutter. I mark it like this. Shows me it's the top of the fabric. So I don't want to get mixed up. It's easy to do on some of these fabrics. And okay, so we've got that. We can cross that out. And now we need our boxing. So that was 10 by 37. So we'll go 2 strips, mark at the 10, and at the fabric up here. Because see, we're coming out on that line there, and we want this image to match on that one when you go around the stool. You don't want it to come around the stool and then go down. So it's going to be a little more than 10, which is fine. And then we need 37, and I'll probably just cut right. Oh, isn't that too bad? There we go. Get a little space. I wish it was a full one because I am getting thirsty. So we'll try to line that up. And that's gone. A little extra piece, I'm going to mark the top, put it over there for later. Then because I got a rotary cutter, I don't have to strike a chalk line. I can just kind of go to the pattern, which is kind of stretched. Boy, it is stretched out. Well, you know what? You can just cut right along that. And when you staple it on, it's going to line up. There, all right. So even though it's crooked like that, when you put it on there, it's going to tend to straighten itself out. And we only need to be 37, so I'll add a little bit. Don't want to be short. There we go, same thing. I'm going to the pattern. I'm not marking it, but if this was a solid or it wasn't so twisted out, you'd mark it, put another mark down here for your straight edge to follow, and you'd be in good shape. So there's one of those. And we'll need one more. There we go. And then we'll get our 37. And that looks good up there. Same thing, very easy with a rotary cutter. And I use it's an Alpha brand cutter. Works real good, used them for a lot of years. Mine's 45 millimeters. Works real good, very sharp. One time I had my thumb over the edge while I was cutting, and you can imagine what happened. Only required 1 stitch and the removal of my thumbnail, so it wasn't too bad. There, mark that out. And now we need the cording, and we needed 4 of them. Now we're not going to be able to go to the pattern, and we don't really even need to go to the pattern, but we do need a straight edge to start with. This particular straight edge I use to cut all my welting. It's the width that works fine, and I don't even have to measure like some people have to measure up an inch and a half, inch and a half, inch and a half, mark, and it's tedious and time consuming, and this just is fine. For my purposes, I'm just going straight across. I know this is like 1 1/4 inches, so I leave like 1/4 hanging down there, and I can just cut across. Watching out that I don't hang my fingers or thumb over the edge. I'm going to square these ends off. They don't look too good. This one's not too bad, but we'll get a fresh edge. There. And a lot of times you have to keep the fabric going in the same direction on the cording. So I mark an end. This left end is going to be marked. So when I stitch it together on the sewing machine, they're all going in the same direction, and we don't have a change of of pattern or of color and in a nap and like a velvet or something like that, it'll show up. All right, so our next step, we're going to stitch these together, and I'll show you a little work on the sewing machine and get a beer. All right, now we're gonna do a little stitching. We'll make the welt cord, and I'll show you how this machine works and how to put things together. Well, I have another one of these guys. You don't want to drink too many while you're stitching because you want to make a straight line. But a little bit keeps your hand steady, so you want a little bit. Well, this fabric's kind of blue and this thread is black. I don't want to get something that's neutral or that is actually the same color. So we're going to get rid of this black and we're going to put this neutral on, and you're going to tie them together. All right, and then you just reach down here and just pull it, and it threads itself right through your machine. And make sure it tucks in there, and then since it doesn't go to all of them, you got to do the rest by hand, which isn't too bad. It's only a couple. Actually, put that down right through the needle. Pretty good eyes for an old man, huh? That's what cataract surgery will do for you. All right, so put the bobbin in, and we gotta pull it up. There, it comes up. We're good to go. And how I like to do my cording is, remember we had that chalk mark, so this would be that side. This one's a plain mark, so we're going to put the plain to the chalk mark, and you could put it like this and sew across end to end, but I like to do it on a diagonal. It makes it look a little better and a little nicer. Drop the foot and then go right through, and we're going to do the same thing with this one. Pull it out, see if we get our chalk mark, and we're going to get the plain end, and we're going to put it on, move it up, take it out, separate all these guys, cut off the extra thread, and we're going to use the cording size here. This is pretty standard. Probably 30 seconds, and it's a synthetic. They have this kind too, which is like a plastic foam core. And there's other sizes. They go bigger, they go smaller, but this is pretty much the standard. And this is pretty easy to make. You have to have a welting foot. The foot just has a little arch in it that allows the cording to go under it. And you put it on, and then you let it rip. I have my cording on a roll that's on a piece of dowel, so I can just roll it right off of there. Relatively easily. Cutting it at the 1.5 inches and using this size cording, you get roughly a 1/2 inch there. Flatten these guys out, which is what you can use when you're sewing it onto a cushion or anywhere. It gives you a consistent width. You don't have to think too much. It just, you know, it's taking a 1/2 inch. And come to the end. And on a big job, I'd leave this hanging out because sometimes you need more. So it's easier, you don't stitch it all the way. You can leave it hanging, and then if you need a couple more pieces you got to add on, you're good to go. So, but this job, this should be more than enough. And we'll go from there, and next step is going to be putting everything together on that stool and making Ma happy. Okay folks, now we're going to finish. We're going to have a nice little stool here. Should look good. You kind of want to make sure the pattern's straight on there. Eyeball it. Straight along here, straight along there, straight along here. Get our faithful BEA. Make sure it's hanging far enough over there. Yep. Put a couple in. Spin the stool. Work it over. Nice and snug. Another staple. Now we know the cording is going to go right up here along the top of that board. So we want to make sure our staples are below that. Alright, do the ends. Nice and snug. Staple right to the edge of the piece. Because as we talked about when we took it apart, when you make your final fold, you're going to make it like that on the front. Ooh, a little short here, but not too short. Alright, now we can make a fold, pull that around there. A couple of staples. Nice little edge. Same thing here. Nice little edge. Make sure you don't get your finger. I've done that a couple times. It's not too bad, except when you pull your hand back quickly. You leave part of your flesh there. Alright, so that's on there. Looks halfway decent. Make sure the edges look okay. And we got to put our cording on next. Whoa, we got a friend. Oh, look at that. Bob's your uncle. Get rid of him. A little revision on this cording. We're going to drop it down a little. I didn't like the way it was done before. It made the top seem too skinny. So I make these things up. I've got all different sizes of them to, 5 inch, 3.5, 4.5, whatever you need. It's just helpful. You just put it on the bottom of the piece, and then it gives you the 6 inches, and in between these little cutouts is where you staple. So you put your cording like that, and you're up 6 inches perfectly, and then you staple in here, and you're good to go. And we're going to use this 6 inch on this piece because the other was too skinny, and it was about 7. So we'll start on an end. You want to make your joint of your cording on the end instead of like on the front of the piece. So we'll put it up there. We'll get our little 6 inch guy to give us our height. Make sure it's good and straight on the bottom. You leave this a little loose because you're going to have to make a joint there when you come around from the other side. Alright, that gives us your 6. And we go down here. Line it up, push it down. right, then when we get here, get rid of that excess. And we're going to just go over it a little bit. Save this for the bottom. Cut that out of there. So you measure it up to that, right to the other one. Cut that off. And you're just going to fold this back a little bit. Put it on there. Wrap it right over. And there you go. All right. Now we need the box. Need these guys. Get rid of them. I'm going to start on a corner. It doesn't matter which one because it's going to span two corners. But you want it to go around, so you're going to make sure it goes around the corner a little bit. And you're going to line it up that 1/2 inch at the bottom of the cording. No, I don't like that. There, I like that better. I'm going to get a little bit more there. Oh. It's always nice making a mistake because then you can get a drink. Okay. All right. That should make it around there. Yep. I should say you want to make sure, you remember you marked your top. Well, make sure the top's there. All right, now we're cooking. We're going to start it over there. Now you've got your overlap that looks finished. And it'll look even better when we're done. All right, now using the longer staple, a 1/2 inch, we're going to be putting on tacking tape later at cardboard, and you're going through several layers of fabric, so you kind of want the longer one. And do the same thing, follow the edge of the cording. And you go right around again. Right, covering the first one we put on. So they look, it looks like a nice finished edge. Now, remember we talked about this when we tore it apart. This holds everything together and gives a nice good edge. Plenty of staples. Just below that cording. You're putting it on just below the cord. It off. There. Give it a quick check. Looks pretty good. The image is good. And see how we cut it before. So that image starts there and then continues right around the corner. Instead of it being off, like this, or, in the middle of a pattern. That's why we cut it to the image as opposed to cutting it straight across. Time to pat it out. Now we'll get our faithful cotton. There, just goes on. That fits pretty good. And we'll staple it again right on the top area, right close to that cording line. Right at the joint, put a few in there, keep them moving. Let's see, put that on. Ma, what'd you do with this? Did you run out of cotton? All right, now on the other one, the way they finished these sides off, they stapled that and then put something in there, but I'm not going to do that. We're just going to put this stuff down. It looks good. All right, so we're going to try to keep the image vertical as possible. You could pretty much start anywhere you want. A couple staples there. We got to go around the leg, which is always a problem. Fold that under, pull it down a little bit. I'm going to cut this off, this extra. And we're going to fold it under that cotton. There we go. So you get that nice look there. Do it on this side. Fold that under a little. All right. And then we'll go to an end here. Same thing, pull it down snug. Don't have to be super tight. Just nice and snug. And we got to do the same thing. Cut it out around those legs. You can see we got extra cotton here. Don't need that. There. Fold those under. Cut it off a little bit. Fold it right under there. Down. There. Looks pretty good. Does it need a little help? It's called a regulator. It's good for moving cotton. It's good for tucking things, and that's what I'm going to do here. I'm going to use it to tuck that under there. It doesn't ruin the fabric, and get that in there. There. Pull it down. There you go, and it looks pretty good. Now this one's a little different in that we got to end over here, and there's no way to end it. You remember they had put a small staple in there, and we'll have to do that or put a gimp tack in there, but we'll pull it down first. Fold that, pull it snug. Now let's see, pull kind of tight. I'm putting one of these in there, and I'm not putting it in too tight, just to hold it till I can decide what I'm going to finish it off with. And you kind of pull it a little that way. That way there you can take any excess and bury it in the corner here. Same idea. I'm just going to tack it with that, just to hold it for now. And then we'll tuck this guy under, like we did before. I'm going to shorten that a little. Yeah, looks pretty good. Tighten everything up now that you got it more or less where you want it. That's good. All right, starting to look like a stool. Looks pretty good. Yeah, that one's not bad. See that little indentation there? We got to get a little cotton in there. You push it up with your regulator and it looks pretty good. Can't regulate with all fabrics, but this one's a pretty good one. The hole just vanishes after you're done. Okay, now we'll put the last piece of cording on. Same idea, we'll start on an end. We're going to leave it loose. Just bring it right to the edge of the wood. And what you got to do is, now you got to cut it out when you're going around these legs. Little snip on either end. That up there nice and tight. Pull this up around good and tight. Looks pretty good. Same deal. Looks much better, huh? Okay, same way we're going to finish this off as we did the other one. Cut it a little beyond it, an inch or two. Then open it up. Get rid of the excess cord. Tuck that right in there. Okay. Back to the tacking tape. Put that on there to hold it. All right, so we're pretty much good to go. Need the dust cover on there, and we'll finish it off. I was thinking, you know, this is my mother's stool. Maybe we ought to put a little mom in it. What do you think? I think she'd like that. There we go. A little bit of mom. Thanks, Mom. Nice stool. Glad you're with me. All right. Now we'll put the dust cover on. This just finishes the piece off. Covers everything up, and it actually will function. It doesn't really do much, but as the innards deteriorate over time, it'll keep it all inside. So it does kind of help in that respect. Start it on one side, bring it across tight. Get the ends. Now we got to cut around these guys a little bit. And so you cut it around there. You got this piece left. You kind of tuck it in under the leg. And if you can, get it up there to go against that leg. Put a few staples in it, keep it there. It's not the prettiest thing, but it's functional. Come on out. Yeah, man. There we go. That's good. When you make these cuts, you just don't cut straight. You cut up so you get a little bit of extra, and you can fold it under, put it right on there. And it finishes it off. If you cut it straight, it's okay, but looks just a little better that way. There. All right. So basically we're done. Looks pretty good. I'm going to pull these staples out, and I'm going to put in a gimp tack. These little guys here. They are sharp. Do the same thing as that staple's doing. Take it out. You get a tack hammer. Oh, is that a staple gun or is that a tack hammer? Yeah, you put it right in there, and that holds it. Then you just pop that staple out of there. And if you really wanted to go to town, you could blind stitch that up and down. Put a little gimp tack in there. Really ought to have a tack hammer, but it's a nice stapler. Hate to, ooh, right in my finger. Look at that. Huh. Isn't that nice? Let's get it on a new piece. Oh no, jeez, imagine that. Just finish it up and then you bleed all over it. So there we are. We got a finished piece. Ma's stool. Ma's in there. And it's looking good. Fabric goes that way. And this is great. We'll probably donate this to somebody. And I'm going to put a Band-Aid on that. Whoa, that's pretty darn bleeding. Thank you. Thanks for watching. It's been a good time. And we'll have more in the future, the Drunken Upholsterer. And thank you for watching, and hope you enjoyed it and learned something. Goodbye. Here's a completed piece. Came out pretty good. Thanks, Mom, for your help. If you liked the video, give us a like. And we like you, and we thank you. And take care.